Okay, everyone, Scott Campbell here with Morris Home Inspections. We're going to go over another portion of the standards of practice for home inspections in South Carolina as written by ASHI, the American Society of Home Inspectors. Today we are talking about electrical. The first part of any portion of the standards of practice describes what the inspector shall inspect. So the inspector shall inspect the service drop, the service entrance conductors, cables, and raceways, service equipment and main disconnects, service grounding, the interior components of service panels and sub-panels, the conductors, the overcurrent protection devices, a representative number of installed lighting fixtures, switches, and receptacles. Let's say a word about that. You see this term, a representative number, mentioned quite a few times for quite a couple different things. So a representative number, at least in our perspective, is anyone that you can get to. If I can get to an electrical outlet to test fairly easily, if I just have to move a chair or something like that, I'll do it. If I have to move like a china cabinet or something, I will not do that. Now, there is some inspection companies that do their little hour and a half inspections, and to them that means test one outlet in a room, one window in a room, one door, and move on, because that is a representative number. To me, that's not what that means. So enough about that. Number 9, ground fault circuit interrupters and arc fault circuit interrupters. And then the next part of this is shall describe. So you shall describe the amperage rating of the service, the location of main disconnects and subpanels, presence or absence of smoke alarms and carbon monoxide alarms, and the predominant branch circuit wiring method. We will talk about this stuff a little bit later. All right, let's start off with defects. So here's a pretty easy one, pretty easy to spot. The cover plate and bottom of the main panel is deteriorating and the conduit is disconnected. So a licensed electrician should repair or replace as needed for safety. Clearly you can see this is deteriorating. Clearly you can see this conduit is disconnected. The problems discovered in the panel, such as a defective GFCI breaker, ground and neutral wires are lugged in the same hole, missing bushings, and any other problems that an electrical contractor may discover while performing repairs needs correcting. I recommend a licensed electrical contractor inspect further and correct as needed. Now I'm going to talk about this slide for just a little bit. So I'm sure there will be a debate about ground and neutral wires being lugged in the same hole. Yes, they are lugged on the same bar in main panels that have, a main shutoff in it. That's acceptable. If it is a distribution panel and not the main panel, they cannot be on the same bus bar. In this case, they're in the same hole. Look, I was always taught that it's not supposed to be that way, and so I roll with that. You have to make a decision on what you want to call out and what you don't want to call out. And then the second part of this slide that there may be some discussion over is the and any other problems that an electrical contractor may discover, blah, 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 blah. I recommend a licensed electrical contractor inspect further. All right, listen. The ugly secret about home inspection is liability and covering yourself in case of liability, right? We all know that we're not electricians. We are there to find problems. If I find problems, I call them out. So I'm not using this terminology as an excuse to stop my inspection right here and then move on to the next thing. All I'm saying is I found everything that I could possibly find in here, right? Electrician should come and fix these things. If there's other hidden issues that I didn't see, because a lot of wiring goes through walls, there just may be some things that you just can't see by a visual inspection, then they need to go ahead and fix that also. That's it. So again, this will be your inspection report. You do things the way you want to do them. This is the way we choose to do them. We call out everything we find. We look for everything that we can possibly find, but we also add the terminology that an electrician should inspect further too. Okay? All right, next one. Back in the panel again here. The problem discovered in the panel, such as breakers are different brands, missing knockouts, double tap circuits, and any other problems that an electrical contractor may discover while performing repairs needs correcting. Here's that terminology again. I'm done talking about that, but I do want to talk about the picture in the middle here, which is breakers are different brands. All right, so on the panels, they all have labels, and almost all of them will specifically prescribe what type of breakers that can be used in this panel. Almost all of them will call out for only their brand of breaker in their brand of panel. There's always discussion about whether it matters or not. Guess what? It's not up to me to decide whether it matters or not. Again, I am not a licensed electrician, and we know that manufacturers' installation specifications are supposed to be followed, so it gets called out. If an electrician doesn't agree and thinks, that's fine, you know what? Great. Let him put it in writing and give to your client, and we can all go about our merry way. All right. Here we're starting to describe things. So the main panel box is located in the laundry room. However, the main disconnect shutoff is outside at the meter base panel. So there, I'm describing where the panels are. If there's a sub panel, I'm going to put that in here too and explain where it is. All right, branch circuits, here we go. The problems discovered with the branch circuits, such as improper wire end terminations and improperly spliced wires not enclosed in a junction box in the attic. And here we go again with the any other problems that an electrical contractor may discover. I think all of us know that when you terminate a live wire, okay, you want to put it in wire nuts, great. It needs to be enclosed in a junction box with a cover on it. Same with spliced wires. I'm not going to go into all the reasons why it is that way. Just know that it is that way and you need to call it out. All right, 2 outlets located in the garage and 1 on the exterior would not trip when tested or are not GFCI outlets. This is a safety issue that should be corrected. A licensed electrical contractor should inspect further and repair as needed. You don't know why they're not tripping. You just know they are. So let the electrician inspect to find out why. That's why I use that term right there, should inspect. If you go back to the first slide that had the deteriorating panel, I do not say should inspect because it's clear that the panel is deteriorating. You don't need to know why, it just needs to be fixed. There are signs of scorching around 1 outlet in the living room. A licensed electrician should inspect further and repair as needed. Notice every one of these defects I put in red. Red signifies that it's going to be in my summary. It's going to be in my summary because it is a safety issue. If it's electrical, it's a safety issue. Okay? I don't care what it is. If it's electrical, it's a safety issue. I don't want just any Joe Blow going at an outlet cover with a screwdriver, right? It's a safety issue. Cover your client, cover yourself, recommend an electrician for safety. 1 GFCI outlet in bathroom 1 group of outlets in the dining room, and 2 outlets in the office are holding an open ground. Electrical issues are considered a hazard until repaired. A licensed electrical contractor should correct as needed. Now, we don't need him to inspect. We know what an open ground is. It's a wiring problem, typically, so correct it. All smoke detectors throughout the dwelling are battery operated and aged. How do I know it's aged? Well, it's yellow. It is recommended that smoke detectors be replaced every 10 years. A licensed electrician should replace all smoke detectors with hardwired units for safety. All right, back to some branch circuits here. The problems discovered with branch circuits, such as wires laying on the ground in the crawl space, and any other, there we go again. Inspect further, okay? Shouldn't have wires laying on the ground in the crawl space. They should be supported, just like HVAC ducts, just like plumbing pipes, gas line. No reason for it to be laying on the ground. Properly support it. Here's one that's interesting. The can lights in the attic are in contact with the insulation. You see this a lot, and sometimes you can find the label on it that specifically states whether they are IC rated or non-IC rated. But most of the time, this is what I find. Due to overspray on the interior of the lights, I could not determine if the lights are IC rated. A licensed electrician should inspect further. Almost, I would say 95% of the time when I go into the interior of the home, I get on a ladder, I pull out the light to look at the inside. They've installed that can before they've painted, and then the paint sprayer just comes in with primer or sealing paint and sprays everything, including the inside of that can and the label. All right. So that's why this comment is there. If I can read the label, and I look every time, I always find a can light and pull it down and look. At least one, sometimes two or three. If it says non-IC rated, then I call that out as a defect. If it's oversprayed and I can't read it, I also call it out. Many outlets throughout the dwelling are either two-prong or three-prong non-grounded outlets. Two-prong outlets were common when the subject property was constructed, and many homeowners have replaced some outlets with three-prong outlets to accommodate the plugs for most of today's appliances and fixtures. This is one that I don't put as a summary because it's kind of one of those grandfather type things. They would have to rewire the whole house to grounded wire. Instead of 2-wire, be 3-wire. And so this is acceptable. It's not ideal. Let them make the decision what they want to do with it. And they should contact a licensed electrical contractor as desired. Okay, there we go. All right, back to the shall describe. So here's the things that we shall describe. The electrical service conductors. So they were overhead service. They may be below ground. You would list it there. They're aluminum or copper. Those are the two you're going to see. The panel capacity. In the majority I see 200 amp, although I see bigger, I see smaller and older homes, but I'm describing what the amp rating is, okay? The panel type, circuit breakers. Very, very rarely do I see fuses. They do pop up every once in a blue moon, but for the most part, it's circuit breakers. Electrical panel manufacturer, square D. Branch wire, 15 and 20 amp, almost always copper. If it's aluminum at that size, you can consider that a defect. Especially, you won't see any at that size that are stranded. So there you go. And then the wiring methods. Obviously, a lot of it is not visible. It's behind walls, right? So make sure you let them know it's not visible. But the ones that you can see, non-metallic cable, hopefully you're not seeing knob and tube, but you might. All right, the things that inspector is not required to do. Remote control devices. You know what? If I see a remote control for a ceiling fan, I'm going to test it. That's about it. Test smoke and carbon monoxide alarms, security systems, and other signaling and warning devices. There's a few reasons for that. One, and this is what some old guys have told me over the years, that button may work. That test button on the smoke detector may work 20 years from now, but that doesn't mean the smoke detector is actually working. So, what's the point? Look at the age of it. Also, sometimes if you try and test those things and they are hooked into the alarm system, you may set the alarm off. So, there you go. You notate if you think it's old, if it's battery or hardwired, and then move on. Obviously, if you think it's old, if they're yellow, chances are they're past their 10 years. All right, low voltage wiring systems and components. Ancillary wiring system and components not a part of the primary electrical power distribution system. Solar, geothermal, wind, and other renewable energy systems. I'm not going to spend time talking about those. Just know that they are not part of your standards of practice. Not required to measure amperage, voltage, and impedance, and determine the age and type of smoke alarms and carbon monoxide alarms. Again, about C, you're not required to determine the age, but it would behoove you to recommend replacement of older smoke detectors. They typically turn yellow. A little fun fact about that, it was never intentionally, smoke detectors were never intentionally designed to yellow with age. It is a byproduct of the manufacturing system and the components. They just happen to yellow over time, and it takes them about 10 years to do so. So there you go. When you start seeing them yellowed, chances are you're at your 10 years, all right? That's it for this one, folks. I appreciate you turning in. If you are interested in the ASHI Standards of Practice and Code of Ethics, like they use here in South Carolina, you can go to the ASHI website and look them up. You can send me an email at scott@morrisehomeinspectionsinc.com, and I would be happy to provide them with you, for you. And as always, check out morrisehomeinspectionsinc.com. All right. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next time.